They're not your friends. Some people will smile right in your face while quietly wishing for your downfall. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. You're calling them friends. You break bread with them, laugh with them, even share your secrets, not realizing some of them are collecting information, not memories. Just because someone stands beside you doesn't mean they're on your side. Real friends feed your soul. Fake friends feed off it. And the faster you learn the difference, the faster you protect yourself from the people who are quietly draining you. There's a big difference between a friend and someone who just happens to be in your life. A real friend is there through the highs and the lows, not just when the weather is sunny. A fake friend? They're there when it's convenient for them, when you have something they want, or when being around you makes them look good. They like the photo ops, the good times, the benefits. But the moment you're in need, they're nowhere to be found. Pay attention to that. Presence during hardship is the truest test of loyalty. Some will never cheer for you honestly. You'll share your good news, and instead of celebrating, they'll give you a half smile, a short, "That's nice," or try to one-up you with their own story. That's not support, that's jealousy hiding behind polite words. A real friend's joy for you is genuine, even if they're going through their own struggles. A fake friend will always feel a little threatened by your success because they measure their worth by comparison. And watch the ones who bring you other people's secrets. They might seem entertaining, but if they gossip to you, they gossip about you. Loyalty isn't selective. If they can't keep someone else's name safe, they won't protect yours when you're not in the room. You deserve friends who defend you in your absence, not sell your story for social currency. Then there are the ones who constantly cross your boundaries. They push past your no, demand your time when you've clearly said you're busy, and make you feel guilty for having limits. That's not friendship, that's entitlement. A healthy friend respects your space, your time, and your energy. Fake friends see your boundaries as obstacles to climb over because they think your life should be accessible to them at all times. Toxic competition is another sign. A little friendly challenge can be healthy, but when someone turns every achievement into a rivalry, it's poisonous. Your success shouldn't feel like a threat to someone who truly cares about you. When you win, they should be right there celebrating, not secretly keeping score. And perhaps the clearest sign, they vanish when you're going through hard times. They're quick to be there for the fun, slow to show up when things get real. Silence can speak louder than any betrayal. If someone disappears when you need them most, they've already told you where their loyalty stands. We often keep these people around because we're afraid of being alone, because we're holding on to who they used to be, or because we feel obligated after so many years. But history doesn't equal loyalty, and the longer you hold on to fake friends, the more they drain your peace. Distancing yourself from people who don't truly care about you isn't cold, it's self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation of emotional strength. The difference between friends and pretenders. There's a very real difference between a friend and someone who's just taking up space in your life. A true friend is there for you when it's inconvenient, when it costs them time, energy, or comfort. They're present not only in the highlight reels of your life, but also in the unedited moments, the heartbreaks, the failures, the days you're not your best. They don't disappear when things get messy, because for them, your value isn't based on how much fun you are or what you can offer. Your bond matters more than the benefits. A pretender, on the other hand, operates on convenience. They're around when you're up, when you've got something they can enjoy or gain from, when it makes them look good to be by your side. They like to be in the photos when you're winning, but they're suddenly too busy when you're hurting. They'll take your energy when you're strong, but vanish when you're weak. And the worst part, they often disguise it so well you don't even realize it until you're standing in the middle of a storm and they're nowhere to be found. The truth is, you can't measure friendship by the good times. Anyone can laugh with you, share a drink, or post a smiling selfie. But can they sit with you when you're crying? Can they listen without judgment when you've made a mistake? Will they still check in when you have nothing to offer except your presence? That's where the line between real and fake becomes clear. Pretenders will often keep the relationship just strong enough to maintain access. They don't want to lose the benefits of knowing you, but they won't invest the effort it takes to truly be there for you. It's like they're renting space in your life without paying rent, and the cost is coming out of your emotional well-being. If you pay attention, the signs are always there. It's in who calls you back. It's in who notices when you've gone quiet. It's in who shows up when you're not at your best. Real friends step closer when life gets hard. Pretenders quietly step back and hope you don't notice. And the sooner you start paying attention to those patterns, the sooner you'll know exactly who's really in your corner and who's just passing through. They only show up when it benefits them. You know the type. They appear the moment life is exciting, when the table is full, when the spotlight is on you. They laugh loud, act close, and make it seem like they're always there for you. But the truth, they're there for the moments, not for you. When you're celebrating, they're front row. When you're struggling, suddenly their schedule is packed, their phone's on silent, and they're just so busy lately. They're not invested in you. They're invested in the benefits of being connected to you. And here's the dangerous part. Sometimes, they're so good at disguising it, you don't notice until you're in trouble. A true friend's presence doesn't depend on circumstances. They don't just show up when there's something in it for them. They show up when you have nothing left to give. But these people, they calculate. They weigh the value of being around you in the moment. And if the payoff isn't worth it for them, they disappear. It's transactional, and if you're not careful, you'll keep giving without realizing they're only taking. Think about it. When was the last time they reached out just to check on you without needing something? When was the last time they were the first to call when things went wrong? Do they only come around when the mood is high, the drinks are flowing, or there's an opportunity to be seen? That's not friendship. That's convenience. And convenience has an expiration date the moment your life stops entertaining them. They love the easy moments, the fun, the parties, the photos. But when you're sitting in silence, when you're overwhelmed, when you need someone to lean on, they're nowhere to be found. You'll hear excuses. They'll tell you they've been meaning to call, that life has been crazy lately. But the truth is, when someone matters, you make time. Always. If they don't, it's because they don't see you as worth it when there's nothing for them to gain. The worst part is, you'll start convincing yourself to accept it. You'll say, they're just busy, or that's just how they are. But if you strip away the excuses and really look at their pattern, you'll see it clearly. They're present only when it benefits them and absent when you truly need them. And that's not someone you can count on. It's someone who's counting on you not to notice. They downplay your wins. Pay attention to the people who go quiet when you share good news. You tell them about a promotion, a big break, or something you've worked hard for, and instead of sharing your excitement, they give you a polite smile, a short, "that's nice," or they immediately turn the conversation back to themselves. They might even joke about it in a way that takes the shine off your moment. That's not harmless. It's telling you exactly where they stand. When someone truly cares about you, they celebrate your victories like they're their own. They feel your joy, they clap the loudest, and they lift you higher without hesitation. But the ones who downplay your wins, they feel threatened. Your success becomes a mirror, reflecting back what they haven't achieved, and instead of using that as motivation, they let it fester into quiet resentment. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it's subtle, sarcasm, a backhanded compliment, or a change in tone. Other times it's more direct. They question whether you really deserved it, or they point out flaws in what should be a happy moment. This isn't about you doing something wrong. It's about them being unable to be genuinely happy for someone else. The danger is that you start to shrink yourself to make them comfortable. You hesitate before sharing good news because you already know how they'll react. You water down your wins to avoid their jealousy. That's not friendship. That's emotional suppression. And every time you hold back, you're teaching yourself to settle for less joy just to protect someone else's ego. A healthy friend doesn't keep score. They want to see you win, even if they're struggling themselves. They understand that someone else's success doesn't take away from their own. In fact, it inspires them. But a fake friend operates from scarcity. They believe there's only so much success to go around, and if you have it, they can't. That's why they'll never clap too loud or for too long. It's easy to excuse this behavior, to tell yourself that's just how they are. But ask yourself this: if the roles were reversed, wouldn't you celebrate them with genuine pride? Wouldn't you want the people you care about to feel seen in their moment? If they can't give you that, then they're not standing with you. They're standing in the shadow, hoping your light doesn't shine too bright. They gossip about you. If someone is comfortable sitting with you and tearing apart another person's life, don't fool yourself into thinking your name is safe when you're not in the room. Gossipers aren't selective. They're opportunists. They trade in stories, drama, and private details like it's currency. And when the conversation ends, they'll take your words, twist them, and hand them to the next person who will listen. It's not about loyalty. It's about keeping themselves relevant by feeding off the lives of others. The danger is that these people often hide behind the mask of just venting or just telling you so you're aware. But let's call it what it is. It's betrayal in slow motion. Every time they share someone else's secrets with you, they're showing you exactly how they'll handle yours. It's not a question of if they'll repeat your words. It's only a matter of when. True friends protect your name when you're not there. They defend you against lies and refuse to let your reputation be tarnished. They understand that trust is not negotiable. But the ones who gossip don't think about the damage they cause. They crave the attention, the reaction, the feeling of being in the know. It's about the power of holding a piece of information and using it to feel important. The subtle poison of gossip is that it can make you complicit. You sit and listen, maybe even laugh, and in doing so, you send the message that it's acceptable. But every time you stay silent in those moments, you're giving permission. That's why it's so important to pay attention to how people speak when the person they're talking about isn't there. Because that's exactly how they speak about you when you're gone. It's not just about the words. It's about the intent. Gossipers don't share to help. They share to stir. They'll phrase it like they're concerned, but underneath, there's satisfaction in having something to say. And make no mistake, when someone takes joy in someone else's misfortune, they'll take joy in yours too. If you value your peace, your privacy, and your dignity, you can't ignore this. The person who casually spreads stories today could destroy your trust tomorrow without a second thought. And the longer you let them keep that access to you, the more you're allowing them to write your story without your permission. They don't respect your boundaries. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They're lines that protect your peace, your time, and your energy. They're a statement that says, "This is where I end and you begin." But the wrong people will treat those lines like they're challenges. They will push, they will test, and they will step over them without hesitation. And here's what you need to understand. Every time you let someone cross a boundary without consequence, you're teaching them that your limits are negotiable. The ones who don't respect your boundaries rarely do it by accident. Often they know exactly where the line is, but they also know you're hesitant to enforce it. They might laugh it off, act offended, or twist it into making you feel guilty for having that limit in the first place. They'll say things like, "I'm just joking," or "Don't be so sensitive," when you try to assert yourself. That's not a misunderstanding. That's manipulation. They show up unannounced because they assume your time is theirs. They keep texting or calling even after you've said you're busy. They pry into topics you've made clear are off limits because for them, your comfort isn't a priority. Their curiosity, their wants, and their needs are. And if you push back, they turn it around and make you the problem. Suddenly, you're difficult, cold, or selfish for daring to put yourself first. What makes this so damaging is that it chips away at your self-respect over time. You start to bend your own rules just to avoid conflict. You agree to things you don't want to do. You tolerate conversations you wish would end. And before you realize it, you're living in a way that prioritizes someone else's comfort over your own well-being. Healthy friends don't make you feel bad for setting boundaries. They respect them. Even if they don't fully understand your reasons, they honor them because they honor you. But people who consistently overstep, they're telling you that your no doesn't hold weight, that your time isn't as important as theirs, that your feelings are secondary to what they want in the moment. And here's the thing. Boundaries aren't meant to push people away. They're meant to create a safe space for relationships to thrive. But when someone refuses to respect those lines, it's because they're more invested in control than in connection. They want unrestricted access to you on their terms without having to consider your needs. That's not friendship. That's possession. If you let this behavior slide, it will only grow. The more you accommodate, the more they will expect. The more you give, the more they will take. And the moment you finally enforce your boundaries, they'll act shocked, as if you've suddenly changed, when the truth is, you simply stopped allowing them to walk all over you. Boundaries don't ruin real friendships. They only ruin the ones that were never real to begin with. They're competitive in a toxic way. A little healthy competition between friends can be motivating. It can push you to grow, challenge yourself, and aim higher. But toxic competition is a completely different animal. This isn't about encouragement. It's about someone turning every part of your life into a scoreboard. With these people, your wins aren't moments to celebrate. They're triggers that make them feel like they've lost. They don't see life as something you can win together. They see it as a constant game where there's only one top spot, and they need to be the one holding it. The problem with toxic competitiveness is that it doesn't always come out loud and obvious. Sometimes it's subtle. You share good news, and they respond with, "Oh, I did that years ago," or "That's nothing. Wait until you hear what I've done." Other times they disguise it as motivation. "That's great, but you know what would be even better?" They can't just let you enjoy your moment without reminding you they're still in the race. When this type of person sees you succeed, they don't feel inspired. They feel threatened. They measure themselves against you constantly, even if you're not competing. If you get a new job, they suddenly have to find a better one. If you start working out, they'll push themselves harder, not for health, but to make sure they outdo you. It's not growth they're after. It's the satisfaction of feeling ahead. The danger here is that toxic competition can erode the foundation of trust in a friendship. Over time, you start holding back on sharing your achievements, not because you're ashamed, but because you're tired of the side comments, the subtle digs, or the way they make everything about them. And that's a red flag. Because if you can't share your joy freely with someone, then that relationship is not a safe space. A true friend sees your success as proof that good things are possible, and they'll cheer for you without needing to make it about themselves. But toxic competitors? They'll be the first to try to one-up you, even if it means stretching the truth or manufacturing situations to make themselves look better. They need to feel like they're winning at all times, even if no one else is keeping score. And here's the thing. You might not even realize how much it's affecting you until you catch yourself downplaying your own achievements just to keep the peace. You stop talking about your progress, your milestones, your happiness, because you don't want to deal with the awkward energy it brings. That's when you know the competition isn't healthy anymore. Because in real friendship, there's no finish line. There's no race. There's just two people running alongside each other, pushing each other forward, not trying to trip each other to get ahead. They disappear during your hard times. You learn who people really are when life stops being easy. It's in those moments when you're not at your best, when you're struggling, when everything feels heavier than you can carry. That's when the truth about your relationships comes out. Some people will be there without you having to ask. They'll show up, sit with you in the silence, and offer their presence even when there's nothing to say. But others? They'll vanish. They'll slip quietly out of your life the moment things get uncomfortable, and they'll convince themselves it's because they didn't want to intrude or figured you needed space. In reality, they just didn't want to deal with the mess. These are the people who are quick to enjoy the good times, to share in the laughs and the victories, but they don't have the emotional capacity or the desire to weather the storms with you. They love the light you bring when you're happy, but when the light dims, they disappear. It's as if your pain is inconvenient for them. They don't know how to show up when there's nothing to gain from being there. And here's the hard part. You will notice the silence. When you're hurting, you remember who didn't call. You remember who saw you struggling and looked the other way. You remember who suddenly became too busy or overwhelmed with their own life. The truth is, showing up for someone doesn't require solving their problems. It doesn't require grand gestures. Sometimes it's as simple as a text that says, "I'm here," or a quick call to let them know they're not alone. But when someone can't even offer that, you have to ask yourself, were they really your friend? Or were they just around for the easy parts? It's not that people have to be perfect. Everyone has their own challenges, their own responsibilities. But there's a difference between being unavailable because of life's demands and choosing to step back entirely because someone else's pain makes you uncomfortable. Real friends lean in, even when it's hard. They're not afraid to stand beside you in the dark, even when they don't have all the answers. The absence of support during your most difficult moments speaks louder than any words they've ever said to you. And the most painful part is that you often don't realize who these people are until you're already in the middle of the storm. That's when the crowd thins, and you're left with the ones who truly care, and the truth about the ones who never did. Because friendship isn't proven when it's easy. It's proven when it's hard, when there's nothing to take from you except the weight of what you're carrying. Choosing yourself over fake friends. There comes a point when you have to stop negotiating with people who don't value you. You have to recognize that not everyone who calls themselves a friend actually wants what's best for you. And the hardest, most empowering decision you can make is to choose yourself over them. Choosing yourself doesn't make you selfish. It makes you aware. It makes you strong. It makes you someone who protects their peace instead of giving it away to people who wouldn't lift a finger to protect you in return. You have to understand that the people around you shape the quality of your life. Your circle defines your success, your happiness, and the energy you carry every single day. Surround yourself with those who celebrate your wins, who respect your boundaries, who show up during the storms, and you'll feel the difference in everything, from your mental clarity to your confidence. But when you allow people who drain you, who gossip about you, who compete with you in toxic ways, to remain in your life, you are literally lowering the ceiling of what you can achieve. Choosing yourself also means letting go of guilt. So often, we hold on to people because we feel obligated, because of shared history, or because we fear being alone. But history doesn't equal loyalty, and proximity doesn't equal care. Real friends don't require you to bend over backward or excuse bad behavior. When you distance yourself from those who don't have your best interests at heart, you're not punishing them. You're giving yourself space to grow. You're giving yourself the room to surround yourself with people who match your energy, who inspire you, and who genuinely want to see you rise. Self-preservation isn't just about avoiding pain. It's about creating strength. When you choose yourself, you send a clear message. Your time, your energy, your heart, and your peace are valuable. You begin to notice who truly belongs in your life and who was just passing through, taking what they could and leaving when things got complicated. You start to invest in relationships that are reciprocal, nurturing, and empowering instead of one-sided and draining. And the beauty of this choice is that it's not just about protection, it's about potential. The more you focus on yourself, the more you grow. The more you create boundaries and prioritize your well-being, the more space you make for people who actually elevate you. You begin to notice the subtle differences between those who cheer you on genuinely and those who smile while quietly hoping you fail. You learn to trust your instincts, to read between the lines, and to act decisively when someone proves they are not truly on your side. Choosing yourself is a declaration that your life, your goals, and your peace are non-negotiable. It's a practice of awareness, self-respect, and emotional intelligence. When you commit to it, you start living intentionally, letting go of people who weigh you down and embracing those who lift you higher, and the transformation begins long before you even realize it. It's human nature to hold on to people who aren't good for us, and understanding why is the first step toward breaking the pattern. Often, we cling to fake friends out of fear of being alone, fear of losing what we've known, fear of starting over. We tell ourselves that having someone, even if they're not fully loyal or supportive, is better than having nobody at all. That fear can be so strong that it blinds us to the signs, making us rationalize their behavior, excuse their jealousy, or forgive repeated betrayals. Nostalgia also plays a role. We remember the good times, the shared laughs, the history we built together, and it makes us want to hold on. We forget that people change, and the bond that once felt strong can decay over time. The version of them we loved may no longer exist, but our memory keeps us tethered. That longing for what once was can prevent us from seeing their true character in the present, making it difficult to step away even when every instinct tells us to. Obligation is another invisible chain. Years of shared experiences, mutual favors, or even family connections can make us feel bound to someone who doesn't reciprocate care. We feel guilty for prioritizing ourselves, as if self-preservation is a betrayal. But the reality is that these feelings are manipulations of our own mind. They pressure us to maintain relationships that are one-sided, draining, and ultimately harmful to our growth. The truth is that distancing yourself from these people doesn't mean you're cruel or uncaring. It means you're aware of your emotional and mental limits, and you're taking responsibility for protecting them. Removing toxic influences from your life allows you to regain clarity, build resilience, and strengthen your sense of self. It gives you the mental space to reflect, to grow, and to connect with people who truly deserve your energy. Psychologically, it's also empowering because it rewires your perception of relationships. You start to value quality over quantity, presence over pretense, and loyalty over convenience. You learn to trust your instincts, to read behavior rather than just hear words, and to act decisively when someone proves they're not really on your side. Letting go becomes less about loss and more about reclaiming your power, your time, and your emotional freedom. Not everyone who stands beside you is on your side. That's a truth many of us resist because it's uncomfortable, because it forces us to confront reality instead of hiding behind illusions. You will encounter people who smile, laugh, and call themselves friends while quietly hoping for your downfall. They'll pretend to support you while subtly undermining you. And if you're not careful, you'll allow them to occupy space in your life that could be filled with genuine connection and growth. Protecting your space, your heart, and your peace isn't a luxury. It's essential. It's a declaration that you will no longer tolerate deceit, manipulation, or emotional drain disguised as companionship. Understanding this starts with awareness. You have to watch how people behave when life isn't convenient for them. You have to notice who cheers for your wins, who respects your boundaries, and who disappears during your struggles. The signs are there. They are rarely hidden if you pay attention. But the harder part is accepting that some people, no matter how long they've been in your life, are not meant to stay. That doesn't make them evil, but it does make them incompatible with the energy, growth, and peace you deserve. Holding on to them out of guilt, fear, or nostalgia only robs you of the life you could create for yourself. Choosing to protect yourself is a form of empowerment. It's about saying, I will not let the actions of others dictate my happiness. I will not let jealousy, gossip, or toxic competition infiltrate my mind or my life. When you step back from those who aren't truly on your side, you make room for the people who are, the ones who celebrate your victories with genuine pride, who show up when life gets hard, and who respect your boundaries without question. You learn to prioritize relationships that uplift, energize, and inspire you, instead of those that drain, manipulate, or diminish your spirit. Protecting your peace also means honoring yourself. It means understanding that your time, energy, and emotional well-being are non-negotiable. You cannot pour into people who take without giving, who demand without caring, or who compete without compassion. The energy you invest in others should return to you in some measure, through support, respect, loyalty, and love. When it doesn't, you owe it to yourself to walk away, to reclaim your power, and to stop justifying the presence of someone who brings chaos instead of clarity. Your life transforms when you learn to discern who belongs in it. When you remove those who are toxic, deceptive, or self-serving, you create space for growth, opportunity, and authentic connection. Your circle becomes a reflection of your values, your energy, and your worth. Protecting your space, your heart, and your peace is not an act of anger or revenge. It's an act of survival, self-respect, and courage. It's the ultimate statement that you will no longer settle for less than what you deserve, and that your life, your happiness, and your future are too important to leave in the hands of anyone who doesn't truly care. When you embrace this mindset, every decision becomes a choice to elevate yourself. Every boundary you enforce is a declaration of strength. Every person you let go of is a step closer to the life, the peace, and the joy you were always meant to experience. And once you start living this way, you'll notice that the world shifts around you. The toxic fades, the authentic rises, and your path becomes clearer, brighter, and more aligned with the person you were always meant to be.